Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Activate Chicago Parents press conference this morning. We wanted a chance to have parent reaction to the announcement that CPS is going to go mask optional next week. So we have a cross section of parents from across Chicago to kind of let us know their reaction. My name is Brenna O'Brien, and I'm with Activate Chicago Parents. I am a CPS parent of 2, and I'm in the Lincoln Square neighborhood. And I feel as a parent that I kind of knew that there was going to be an announcement sometime soon, but I was very much expecting something along the lines of CPS and CTU have reached an agreement, and here's our safety metrics, and here's the reason, and here's how we're going to introduce some mask optional choices. That did not happen. Yesterday, it was a surprise, I think, that CPS just blanket said, all right, we're going mask optional Monday. That very much, it causes more chaos. It causes more stress. It was not a collaboration with the union, and it was not a collaboration with parents. We found out last week that there were some parents who received a survey to try to collect some information about how they felt about mask optional or mask required. I did not receive that survey. Many of the parents on this call did not receive that survey. So again, it seems like this was just a decision by the mayor, a decision by the district, without collaborating with the community. So once again, they've broken our trust. How can we trust that they're going to keep our kids safe if they don't even work with us or work with the union? So I'm going to go ahead, and we have several parents. They're going to speak on their own experiences. And then at the end, if there are any media questions, we're happy to respond to that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass it over to Anna.
Thanks so much, Brenna. So hi, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a parent of a 5-year-old and a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Our family originally participated in the CPS sick out at the beginning of the school year. And ultimately, when the remote option was taken away from families and children, my daughter was not eligible for a vaccine at the time, and we were forced to make the difficult decision to not send her to pre-K for her safety. It was clear then, as it is now, that CPS had no plan or concern for the safety of our children. As soon as schools started, there was no testing as promised by CPS and Allison Arwoody. Mayor Lightfoot went to the extent to call COVID-19 testing a quasi-medical procedure in her enthusiasm to punish teachers, students, and parents that demanded safety. In January, as Omicron raged through Chicago, Lightfoot and her handpicked CEO claimed that schools were safe while reworking the data on how spread was tracked in schools. It is clear that the parents at Lori Lightfoot and Pedro Martinez are catering to do not look like me or the majority of CPS parents and students. They are not listening to the communities that have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19 and the parents and students and teachers that have experienced trauma from this pandemic that has killed Black and Brown people at rates 2 to 3 times more than white people. Lori Lightfoot and Pedro Martinez chose to listen to a loud minority of affluent parents. Lori and her handpicked board have catered to the extreme reactionaries in every CPS decision. If it were not for parents, students, and teachers standing side by side, Lori would have never agreed to a single mitigation. It is even more clear today, on International Working Women's Day, that the decision that Lightfoot and Martinez are pushing are not at all about safety. We're entering the 3rd year of the pandemic that has impacted women by greater numbers. Marginalized women have faced the brunt of job loss, being forced into full-time childcare roles for the safety of their families. We have lost parents and mothers to this pandemic. I will say the 2 names of the Jensen mothers that we lost: rest in power, Denisha Henry and Shanita Curry. The decision to make masking optional will again force working mothers to make the decision of safety for their children or a paycheck as the city rolled back mitigations. Let me be clear, we are in this position because opening the economy is more important than our children's health and safety, and that is not right. So I'm here today on International Women's Day to demand that CPS keep the mask mandate and do so much more that our children deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, Lee Sustar, I see your hand up.
Hi, Lee Sustar here. I'm a parent of a sophomore at Lane Tech, and in the background. And I'm here today to talk about my kind of same shock as the previous speaker said about the sudden unilateral decision to remove the mask mandate. It's something that was painfully negotiated through a very important struggle that the CTU waged back in January. And having it thrown away today is really an affront to everybody who's still struggling to keep people safe. You know, there's a crisis of vaccination. We have it in the Chicago Tribune reporting that some schools, only 10% of kids are vaccinated. And these mitigation measures around masking are still critical. There are, of course, a lot of people who are immunocompromised or otherwise cannot be vaccinated. It puts them at risk as well. And it compels teachers to work in an unsafe working condition, completely ignoring a decades-long tradition of collective bargaining. So this is something that's unacceptable. It's something that CPS rushed out in a hurry before we had time to react. But I'm very pleased to be here with those who are standing up and speaking out about this important matter.
Thank you, Lee. We appreciate you. Bridget White, go ahead. Bridget, you're still on mute. You may need to unmute. Okay, Bridget, if you're not quite ready, is there someone else who would like to go next after Bridget? Okay, Jesus, why don't you go ahead and we'll come back to Bridget.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm so grateful to see so many allies here, and Byron Lopez, who of course I say is my older person. My son is also here, Antonio. He's homesick. I'm praying it's not COVID. Anyway, so it's so constant concern. Look, I am disgusted with CPS, but not surprised because they've never made us a priority. They've never consulted parents. I have a daughter who is in first grade. My son is in sixth grade. His class alone quarantined 6 times in one school year. And that was good of the principal to do that. But think about that. So I'm deeply concerned. I'm concerned about this variant. People aren't even mentioning preschool kids. They can't get the vaccine. Somehow the memory of the media has forgotten that our children got a vaccine without full antigen, so they're not fully protected. And so I really think that to remove the mask mandate, it's criminal, it's racist, and it makes absolutely no sense. Why? Especially with St. Patty's Day coming up, why in God's name would they imperil our kids, imperil our teachers, and imperil our communities? This is ridiculous. And this should be called out for what it is. It is criminal behavior, and I won't stand for it. I think we need to continue our efforts to really support the Chicago Teachers Union to be the fighting union for us, you know, and that's all I have to say. I stand in solidarity with all of you. I hope that Martinez will listen. I did send him a very long email on my daughter's birthday. But look, at the end of the day, our kids are expendable to them. They care about normalcy, whatever that is, and they care about making the economy run again, which is absurd. We are in a pandemic. We got to just keep saying that. We're in a damn pandemic. There is no post-pandemic. The infection rates are not acceptable. So that's all I got to say. Thank you again, and I appreciate the time to speak to y'all and be here.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, we're going to go back to Bridget, and hopefully we can get Bridget going. Okay. Sorry, Bridget. We will make sure you get heard in just a few minutes. Okay, it looks like Chinella is next. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, my name is Trina Miller. I'm a mother of 7. I have 6 children that are currently in CPS. And I actually think it's funny that I did not receive this email about, how we feel about the mask, because again, as a parent of 6 CPS students, I usually receive emails multiple times. So it's clear to me that the opinions that they wanted were not the opinions of the Black and brown community. I honestly feel like that, I really feel like what happened was when the white kids in the affluent neighborhoods spoke up and said that they did not want to wear masks, the powers that be decided that they wanted to listen to those children and make it okay for all of our children. We are very aware that we have some parents that are not vaccinating their children, and that's fine because those are their children. We are very aware that we would rather have our kids at home schooling, but we're not allowed to. So if you're going to force me as a parent to do something that I don't want to do for my child, at least have my child at least let them wear a mask. It should not be optional. Our teachers have pre-existing conditions. Our students do. There are students and teachers that cannot get the vaccine because of medical issues. I don't understand what the fight is over. At first, they were fighting to keep the mask on. At first, Lori wanted everyone to keep the mask on. Now she's changing her mind. And we know that it's because her people, the parents that she cares about, the parents whose opinions that she actually does want to hear, are the ones that are calling the shots and making the rules. Our Black and brown parents, we're tired of this. We're not having it. We've been in this pandemic for too long. Things are not going to change. COVID is not going away. It's okay, CDS and Lori, to say that y'all don't know what y'all are doing and y'all are confused. That's okay, because we've never been through this before. But be adults, say that we're parents, we know what's best. Bring us to the table and let's have this discussion to make sure that our teachers, staff, and parents and students are safe. My daughter has a friend whose grandmother passed because she brought COVID home to her. That should not have happened because they didn't want to be in the school in the first place. They wanted to protect their grandmother, but they were forced to. I'm hoping that these sessions that we're having, I'm hoping that y'all are listening and y'all start doing the right thing and bring us to the table so that we can get this together, get our kids the safe education that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, taking the time out to speak with us. Okay, we have Catherine next, and then I think third time's the charm with Bridget. So go ahead, Catherine.
Thanks. I'm Catherine Henschel. I'm the parent of the special ed students at Vaughan Occupational High School. So yeah, I'm speaking out against this unilateral decision to lift the mask mandate. Yes. To me, this issue raises some questions. First, why is an attorney downstate deciding what's safe for students in Chicago? How can the city ignore the legally binding agreement with the CTU? Why are we doing this when the vaccination numbers at Chicago public schools are so low? And what are we doing to protect our most vulnerable students? In January, the teachers walked out because of unsafe conditions in schools. And instead of just switching to remote, CPS forced our students to lose instructional days. As part of the return to work agreement with the CTU, CPS signed a memorandum of agreement with the CTU stating that masks would be worn for the remainder of the year. Now, we can't just unilaterally have one side reversing such an agreement. So now the unions had to force an unfair labour practices charge against the district. And is this going to result in losing more instructional days because CPS just can't stick to an agreement they've made? And, I'm sure most of you have seen the report by WVEZ that shows that less than half of all CPS students are fully vaccinated in 75% of Chicago's schools. And we have 50 schools with 10 or fewer percent of students vaccinated. And as has already been mentioned, most of these students live in the less affluent brown and black neighborhoods of Chicago. And these are the students who've suffered the most under the pandemic already. Why are we going to make things worse for them? And what are we going to do to protect them? And also, how are we going to protect preschoolers? We've said that before, who are not eligible to be vaccinated. the students with medical conditions that prevent them from being vaccinated, and the students that are medically fragile, and even if they have been vaccinated, they still can't afford to catch COVID. In my son's school, the vaccination rates are pretty high, but we have a lot of medically fragile students. And as a community, we should be working together to protect those students, not sacrificing them to the whims of a downstate attorney who's seeking political office. So, Mayor Lightfoot, CPS, our students have gone through enough with this pandemic. The least you could do is honor your word and protect our most vulnerable students.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, Bridget, are you ready? We're coming to you next.
Yes, I finally got it to work. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bridget White. I am a parent of two CPS students. My daughter is in 8th grade at Poe. My son is in 6th grade at Southern Elementary. And I am totally against them pulling back on the mask mandate. We are still in a pandemic. Once again, dollars and cents over people. We are still in a pandemic. Dollars and cents over people. A pandemic does not go away just because you want it to, just because you're tired of it. The numbers were rising just after Christmas break. We were at the highest that we were almost at the beginning of the pandemic. The numbers began to go down. Here we are just a few weeks out from that. You don't pull the mask just because people are tired of wearing the mask. This has been about dollars and cents from the very beginning. We weren't given the remote option when parents were, when they wanted to go back to the school. Even in September, we should have been still given the remote option, and we were forced back against our will. Because once again, Black and brown communities does not matter. It keeps being about those of the affluent and of the wealthy that are listened to. Every single time, the things that's needed for our children, resources, safety, care, the teachers have had to stand up for the parents because the elected officials do not care and keep making poor decisions for us unless CTU stands up for them. We don't have nurses in our schools the way we should. We don't have counselors in our schools. Everybody keeps talking about doing the best interest for the children. Where's the counselors for the parents of the children who might have lost their parents during the pandemic? Once again, we are not listened to, and everybody just makes decisions for us without being inclusive of us. Mayor Lightfoot has been showing throughout, you cannot trust her word. We were supposed to have an elected school board. She reneged on that. We were supposed to not have our masks taken away until the end of the school year. When everybody else kept pulling the mask and all of that, I'm thinking we're good because CTU has this agreement. But yet and still, we get this notification out of the blue yesterday as of Monday, this is being pulled back. CPS have gotten $2 billion in COVID funds. Where is that money at? They keep talking about these millions of dollars that was done. Show us what was done. A teacher passed away at Carnegie during this. You've lost CPS parents who CPS still doesn't admit that they were the reason why those parents aren't here. And I'm sure there's so many more other cases of that just didn't make the news due to the lack of safety mitigations that CPS did not put in.
Okay, thank you, Bridget.
Muted out.
Oh, that's okay. I think, Bridget, thank you so much. We're actually going to move on to Alderman Byron Citro Lopez, sorry, because he only has a few minutes. Thank you so much, Bridget.
Go Byron.
Thank you, and I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you for the parents for creating this important space to put the facts before the political interest, to put the well-being and the health of our parents, the students, and the communities at large before the personal interest, the financial interest, and the political interest of a few that are imposing on the many. I think that we've got to be very unequivocal on this. The decision to lift this mandate it is irresponsible, but more than that is racist. When we see the levels of vaccination in our communities, and I tell you, as someone who represents the vast majority of residents in our Black and brown communities, less than 50%, 49% of CPS children have received at least one vaccination. That is a troubling fact when we see the majority of our kids still yet to be vaccinated. We have kids under 5 years old who are still they're not qualified for vaccination. And if you add to that the lagging of vaccination in some of the poorest areas of the city of Chicago, in 50 schools, the vaccination rate reaches 10%. That is a shame. That is a shame on the Chicago Public Schools and the mayor of the city of Chicago and all elected officials who have been silent on this issue. Because this issue is not new. Since last year, since March of last year, exactly a year ago, we proposed bringing the vaccines to the people, an ordinance that actually would bring the funding that was allocated by the federal government for vaccination and safety of our communities impacted by the pandemic directly in our schools. We have seen how the little CPS has done has improved the situation when we have bring vaccination to our schools directly. There is a real simple way to circumvent all of this, and it's actually what you're discussing, empowering and communicating with parents. There's a simple form that can be discussed with parents around vaccination, around masks, and that always includes the parents, to allow, and I will be clear on that, a criminal candidate for Attorney General, a Republican candidate, is trying to make a whole campaign out of this. It's irresponsible when we're putting so many parents, so many kids, especially immunocompromised parents and children, and their well-being and health on the line. It is irresponsible. We demand of the Chicago Public Schools to actually discussing this with the parents. It is common sense, but it's exactly the one thing that they're not doing. If we can get vaccination in our schools, if we can get our children, a majority of children vaccinated, as other districts have done, we perhaps can discuss the issue of mandates of masks. But the current situation, it is political. It is a shame that even Mayor Lightfoot has been raising campaign funds out of this issue of the mandates for masks in the middle of a pandemic where so many children and parents are at risk because they're not vaccinated. So, and let me add another thing, because Mayor Lightfoot continues to push this message around the legality, the legal issues and so forth. Mayor Lightfoot herself and her administration had no issue lifting illegally a moratorium on tavern licenses 2 blocks away from a high school. That is something that Alderman solicited. So I want to be clear. It's not only the Republicans, but also these Democrats who put it in front of this before the safety, before the well-being, and the legality of all the things that they do. They put their interests and the political interests before the interests of our kids, our families, and our schools. This is the time for us, as parents across the district, to come together and demand that CPS starts listening to the parents. This is why we demand an elected school board now. That's why we're so critical. Because otherwise, you see what these criminals are doing. Because to listen to a Republican candidate and put a whole district at risk, it is irresponsible and criminal. And the other thing is that we got to get fully behind this labor agreement, the labor complaint of the Chicago Teachers Union. That is also a legal document. So who does Mayor Lightfoot listen to? That's what we have to, who does he act for? Who is he serving and protecting? So again, thank you to the parents. You do have elected officials that will be with you. And I call for the next actions and any future actions to stop the madness in CPS. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And we actually do have a student who is next. We're going to go to Antonio Breed, and then after that will be Lori. Go ahead, Antonio.
Antonio, woo, unmute, son.
I'm sorry, I'm feeling a bit under the weather, but hello, my name is Antonio Breed. I'm a student currently, and up till I'd say maybe it's just crazy to think about how much it's been disregarded for COVID safety. I mean, things as simple as wearing a mask or trying to be stripped away and turned into something of an option rather than something that's needed. Vaccine mandates, in my opinion, should be in place. And at the very least, we should have masks. But the fact that they want to take away masks from inside the schools and places where people could possibly be jeopardized is very much improbable to me. It does not make sense to spend this much time spend this much time trying to take focus away from the actual issue of COVID-19 and try to focus only on the economy and the gains of money and power for people. I feel like at this point, COVID safety is now not a non-pressing issue to most people in our highest pillars of government, when it definitely still is. Because as my mom said, I have had to quarantine 6 times. And let's just say I've been 3/4. 6 divided by 3 would be 2. So that meant 2 people out of the 3/4 I've went to school have gotten COVID, which is not enough. It's absolutely staggering to see how many people have been infected and affected by something like this happening. I am once again very lucky to have the vaccine. However, some people cannot say the same. If we use money as it was allotted and it was meant to be allotted, we would have success, and also we would be able to survive and help fight against a pandemic in its 3rd year, which is still insane to me that some people are being withheld from that, don't have the vaccine yet, and it's been around a year since it was released. I think I'll just stop speaking there.
No, thank you, Antonio, and we hope you feel better, and we hope that that you're okay. Okay, so we're going to go to Lori, and then after that, we'll go to Michelle, followed by Dr. Howard Ehrman.
Morning. So I have 3 kids in CPS. I have a 7th grader and 5th grade twins at Tubman Elementary. And on Friday, our principal had one of the principal-parent conversations, and she brought up that she had heard that they may be removing the mask mandate, and it was empowering that almost every single parent on that call felt that it was important to keep up the masks. When you talk that only 47% of children ages 5 to 11 are vaccinated, and our preschool kids cannot be vaccinated at all, and you start looking at the percentages of people who are immune compromised and live in families where people would have a health risk, and teachers, it seemed ridiculous. And to a normal person, it might seem impossible that CPS would take away that mandate. There went my cat. But with CPS, I've been in this game for 10 years now, and what they do is criminal. They do not keep us safe. They do not keep their staff safe. And now we're asking teachers to do one more thing and guide the conversation about personal choice. It just was January 23rd when CPS was telling us all we needed to have the KN5 masks, and they said that they had bought 200,000, which we know is not enough. Of my 3 children, 1 kid got a mask. It's pink and has furniture on it. Only 1 mask was given to my kids with the billions of dollars. So our friends of Tubman fundraised just like 3 weeks ago and bought $3,730 worth of these expensive masks, which CPS said were medical grade. And we absolutely, positively needed to keep our children safe. And now they're like, nope, you don't need anything. So what caused that change? We don't know what caused that change. So I do go to a school. I live on the north side in Irving Park. My kids go to a school in Lakeview, and I am calling on all those other schools who have a Friends of group who can buy these things, who do have all of those privileges that we're hearing about, and we need to stand up to. And I'm proud of my school for doing that. The well-funded schools need to speak up and stand up, and we need to stand united as a community for all of the schools and all of the kids, because that's what it's about. I'm sorry your kid has to wear a mask. I'm sorry you can't go and see your kid in the dance show. This is about life or death, and we need to stand up just as strong as everyone else, even if we don't feel like it impacts us personally. So I thank everybody for letting me be here today. I will stand with you. I will fight with you. And my 3 kids will proudly be wearing their masks on Monday.
Thank you, Lori. We appreciate you. Okay, let's go ahead to Michelle, please.
Hi, my name's Michelle Bautista. I have 2 kids in CPS schools. One's a 5th grader, one's a 1st grader. I'd like to talk about the COVID pandemic in terms of a mental health perspective. As a mental health provider, I think that we've all been traumatized and touched by this pandemic. I think we will have ripple effects from this. I think as a community as a whole, some people want to be done with this pandemic. I think we can all agree that we want to be done. But I think sometimes when we're grieving, we want to yearn for something that is no longer here. This idea that we can go around wearing no masks is kind of ideal, right? We'd all love that. However, the reality of the situation is that this pandemic can swing, and we have to look out and have responsibility towards the most marginalized and most vulnerable. No one wants to know that their kid gave someone COVID. No one wants to be susceptible to that grief. And I would just like everyone, parents included, that want to unmask, consider that. And I also want to call out, that parents need to be responsible towards each other. We have teachers who have had newborns. We have teachers that, are older. We have a teacher shortage. So the idea that the system is trying to kind of pit parents against teachers, we need to stand up against that and be clear that safety is a priority for everyone in that building. And we no longer need disruptions this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to have some comments from Dr. Howard Ehrman, and then after that, Calavita. And then we also have some comments that people have written and sent in to us that we will be sharing. So go ahead, Dr. Howard.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks to Activate Chicago parents for having this press conference. The first thing I want to do is to invite people to the People's Response Network and Allies press conference and rally this Thursday, 9:30 a.m. at City Hall. I'm sitting in a car about a block from one of my grandchildren's schools. I dropped off both of my grandkids. One's a CPS high school student, one's an elementary school. With the high school student, we stood outside for a half an hour before school started, and we asked lots of the students how they felt about the masks. They all felt unsafe. They all felt this is stupid, and they're all ready to do something about it. I would urge us to, number one, at the end of this meeting, to call CTU headquarters, to email CTU to first of all say we're with the teachers, but the teachers have to seriously consider taking legal action. They have to seriously consider calling on parents to really do a full-fledged strike. This conversation is fantastic, but unless we're ready to walk out of the schools and to take our kids and grandkids with us, I doubt that the mayor or anybody else is going to budge on this issue. This is all, as Byron and other people have been saying, this is all about racial ethnic cleansing. This is part of the plan of Chicago that started in 1989, when I was standing 10 feet away as still the assistant health commissioner from Daley, and the first words out of his mouth at his first press conference is, there's too many poor people in Chicago. So we've lost 25,000 mostly African-American families, but public housing has been destroyed. And destroying schools and basically making kids sick and teachers sick who are an incredibly high risk for this. We have no idea what percentage of teachers and staff who are older, and particularly the Black teachers and staff, who are the oldest group in the schools, are fully boosted. If you're not fully boosted with this disease, then you're not really safe. So you need to work together. We all need to talk to the students in the schools where our kids and grandkids go, to the parents, and urge the teachers to unite and to work with us to take further action. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go to Calavita, and then Angela Spencer will be after that.
Good morning, everyone. I am a parent of 2 teenagers in CPS. Both are juniors. And I can tell you without unequivocal fact that this mask mandate is a death sentence for many of us. I am not just having one morbidity. I don't have just 2. I don't have just 3. I have 6. One I was born with, and the rest have developed with me aging. One of my children attends a mask optional school. He's placed there. And last week, he brought home COVID. I am scared to death. A friend in the parent community brought me a HEPA filter because I can't afford one. My son has been isolated in my home, in his room, for the past 5 days. My daughter has started having symptoms within the past 2 days. If they lift these masks, many of us are going to die. That's the reality. And I'm so sick and tired of CPS and Lori Lightfoot lying to us, because that's what it is. Before they lifted the mask mandate, I was able to keep COVID out of my home. I didn't go anywhere. My children didn't go anywhere. Even when they went to school, because everybody was masked, we didn't have an issue. But once it was lifted, now it's in my home. I don't know what's going to happen to us. We are all vaccinated and boosted in my home, but I am the one who's mostly affected by this. And if we continue to allow this unmasking, it's going to have devastating effects on us, as we've already seen. We need to keep the masks. There's no question about it. And I just feel that, in agreement with the doctor, we need to take our children out of schools. We need CTU to walk out, because that's the only way that they're going to listen. Because right now, they're pandering to that attorney from downstate and that minority of parents who are affluent, and they're not affected. And that's all I have to say on this.
Thank you so much. I really hope your children feel better and that you'll be okay. It's affecting so many people. We're going to go ahead and go to Angela Spencer, and then an opportunity for anyone who hasn't spoke, just let us know. Go ahead, Angela.
Good morning. I'm Angela Spencer. I'm a parent of 2 CPS high school students. I'm outraged. I'm a healthcare worker. I'm a taxpayer. And I think the parents should have had some kind of opinion as to lifting this mask mandate. Our teachers matter. Our students matter. Our families matter. It's not safe for them to go back to school, not use masks, contract COVID, and bring it back home to our families. One more point I wanted to say is that this makes absolutely no sense. If they are going to lift the mask mandate, then the parents should have the option of going back to remote learning. Mayor Lightfoot and all these elected officials that have not included us in this decision, CPS, Lori Lightfoot, elected officials, please make it make sense, because this makes absolutely no sense. It's not our children, it's not safe for anyone. I'm not happy about it. And I stand with a whole bunch of parents who was not included. We're not happy about this. We matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Now we're going to go to Christine. Christine, go ahead, please.
Hi, I actually am a substitute teacher for CPS, and I just want to touch on a couple things. I hear all of your positions, all of your sides, and and I'm trying to understand it. In the classroom, though, I see a lack of growth, and a strike, whoever is encouraging a strike will put our kids, they will set them back in the growth. It will be detrimental. I see second graders who don't know their letters. Someone also said, you know, there's a lack of counselors. There is a lack of counselors. We need to focus on what these kids really need. I'm in a lot of incentive schools. The suicide, having a kid tell me something and there's not a counselor in the school to absorb what they're going through is wrong. I get all that. But I also get that this pandemic is not going anywhere. We have to learn how to get through it. Also, for people who are that afraid and you're vaccinated, I honestly don't understand it. The vaccination was put there to give you protection. And I myself can't get vaccinated, but I'm okay. I supplement. I do so many other things to build my immune system up. CPS is offering vaccines at schools. They're also offering $100 gift cards for kids to get it. I don't understand how people can be so afraid. In a classroom, the kids were eating lunch. Now, let me know if this makes sense. A second grader had her mask on during lunch, took her mask down, took a bite, put the mask back up to eat. Does that make sense? We are causing fear in our children that's displaced. And the parents are doing it to the kids. And the teachers are doing it to the kids because I see it. It's wrong. There's nothing wrong. If you want to go to school, wear your mask, wear your mask. If you want to have remote learning, you have an option. Homeschool. I can set you up with so many different avenues for that. Great curriculums if you want it. There are options. A strike is not an option.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I see Dr. Howard, you have your hand up. But before I come to you, I just want to make sure anybody else, please put your name in the chat if you'd like to speak. So go ahead, Dr. Howard.
Yeah, I wasn't planning to speak in, but I really have to answer Christine with all due respect. First of all, CPS promised over the summer to test everybody in every school every week. They went back on that promise on purpose because they knew it would show much, much higher rates of infection than it has shown by testing less than 10% of the kids in the whole system.
You do know that the test shows just a simple cold, though.
Christine, go ahead. It's Dr. Howard's time.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two is Los Angeles Unified School District has offered vaccine in every school where every kid goes to school, not making them leave their school at least once a week. The CPS offerings have been horribly organized. They've been very poorly participated in because parents don't know about them, if they know about them at all, and they last 2 hours. That's not the way to offer vaccines. By not offering vaccines in the kids, you increase the racial disparities. Kids are getting infected and not even knowing it, and then several weeks later they get long COVID or they get multi-system inflammatory syndrome, where 2/3 of all the kids in the United States, of 7,000 cases, are Black, Brown, and Native American. This is just another act of racism by exposing the kids, the teachers, and the staff of color who make up the majority of people in the schools, not the teachers, but the staff, and their families. So don't make this sound like either the pandemic's over or this is a mild disease. This is not a mild disease. The last thing I'm going to say, the fatality rate of this disease is 10 times greater or more than the flu. And you're going along with the line from the President of the United States that says the pandemic's over. It's not over.
Thank you very much. Kathy Powers, I see your hands raised. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Powers. I'm an LSC at Newfield School in Rogers Park. What we've experienced so far in Rogers Park are a lot of tax mitigations, including the masks. Our students are still getting the surgical mask. We didn't get the promised mask that we were supposed to get. Some schools, I've been going to a lot of these forums and parent meetings. Some schools don't even get soap to wash their hands. Some schools have closed their restrooms because they don't have supplies. This is how CPS makes our schools, quote, safe. All I can say is I understand the priorities. I understand. This is bigger than Lori Lightfoot. I gotta say, don't tell her something bigger than her, but there is something bigger than her. And make a profit. Get your kids back into school, get your butts back to work, and make us money. That is the priority. And it's bigger than any one person, and we don't have to cooperate. That is all I have to say about it. We can turn the river green. We can turn the river green because that's a big priority. But we can't keep our children safe and at least have decent masks for them.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hello, I would like to speak. I have to start to work.
Oh, go ahead.
I am an advocate for children with disabilities since 25 years, and I have 4 kids who attend CPS. Now I just have one in high school, and I want to mention, and maybe I don't want to sound pleasant for everybody, but in my experience, what is happening is we have to find a balance. I don't think a strike is a solution. I don't think the mayor is doing what should do. The schools are not being clean with the money the government gives to be clean schools. The schools are not being disinfected every day, but the money is going. We have to put the eyes in the budget, because if you want to hurt someone, go to the wallet. And I think we have to start to monitor that money to make sure our kids are safely in the school and the teachers are safely in the school. My daughter, since the pandemic, is being hospitalized 3 times for emotional disabilities, for anxiety and depression. And it's a lot of students in the same situation. I don't think strike is a solution. I don't think removing the mask is a solution. We have to find a balance. We have to work for the safety, but also for the health and the education of our children, because our children don't have time to waste. Time is passing. They graduating without the skills they need, just because we, the adults, the parents, the politicals, and the teachers are not finding a balanced way to serve our kids.
Thank you.
We don't have children, we don't have work. If we don't have parents, if we don't have families, we don't have politics, then we have to find a balance, because we all are working because we have a community. We have to find a balance in the community, especially for the children.
Thank you very much. Jesu, if you can just say a quick comment, and then we're going to move on.
So I don't split hairs. Let me be clear, and I'm sorry this woman left. We cannot control when the CTU goes on strike. What we're calling for is specific days where we have sick outs. And this is the only time that the mayor has actually sat with parents, is when we had the one sick out. I don't think striking a few days is going to harm our children indefinitely. I do believe that we need to fight unified, and it's right. We need to find a balance. But we've been trying to support the CTU, and we'll still keep supporting the CTU, but we got to fight for our kids. We have to take more militant action. We have to put pressure on the mayor. No, let's go even higher. The president, the mayor, the city, her damn CEO, and the board. And we've been doing that, but we have to do more. I don't want my kids to die of COVID. I don't want anybody to die or get sick. You know, and I recognize that people, I mean, I'm the poster child for mental health. I understand. But at the end of the day, we need to do what's right for all of our kids. Not an elite few, not little categories here and there.
Thank you. I saw Lauren Taylor's hand was raised earlier. I didn't know if you wanted to speak, Lauren, before we shifted to the written comments.
Oh, well, no, very quickly. Excuse me. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, just very, very quickly, I mean, the comments, I guess the way that I would, sum it up is that, we are all being conditioned to live with COVID, or that seems to be where the trend is going. And it seems to be almost curiously odd how much on the same page many of the decision makers are. But in reality, when they talk about living with COVID, what they really mean is relegating certain segments of the society to be at greater risk of dying from it. And I think Dr. Howard, kind of spelled it out, which groups that is, right? And so you could say, almost as Pollyannish or as corny as it sounds, I'm really trying to ask people to focus on the stories like the one sister that, shared with us, what's going on with her family, and, isolating her son inside his bedroom. I mean, so yeah, just a little more love. That's all I'm asking for.
Thank you. So, of course, we know that this is just a cross section of parents, and there are many parents that also support this, but couldn't be here. So I'm going to go to Lee. We have a couple written comments we'd like to share, and then we should have 2 or 3 minutes at the end if there are any questions from the media. So go ahead, Lee.
Okay, we definitely want to give voices, and some parents don't have translators available to be a part of these press conferences. So I want to first highlight Elizabeth Rivera. She's a CPS parent with a child of deaf adults, first grader at Schubert Elementary in Belmont Cragen. She sent a detailed statement, but I will read this portion. We all know that vaccinations protect us, but they don't 100% keep us from still getting sick or passing on the virus to others. However, with how low the rate is at our school, this move to make masking optional is putting our community at higher risk. In the beginning of the pandemic, our neighborhood was hit so badly with COVID infections. Last summer, there was some boasting about how we became one of the most vaccinated neighborhoods, but that's for adults. I remain skeptical about the data because I know several neighborhoods in our area that have yet to get vaccinated. The majority of children still aren't vaccinated. My son is because I want him to be safe. Universal masking is what will help communities stay safe more than just assuming that we need to trust that others will not be irresponsible when it comes to public health. I don't want children to get sick in schools and somehow pass it on to teachers and other families that have much more seriously immune compromised individuals. We have no idea if there will be another surge in the coming months, especially with risky moves like this one, if the variant will be just as bad. Now a statement from a longtime CPS parent. Once again, Chicago public school leaders, you have shown parents that we cannot trust you to keep our children safe, despite the boilerplate language in each COVID-19 notification I get from my children's school claiming that safety is your main priority. You denied special education students their legally mandated service. You covered up countless cases of sexual abuse. You lied about your ability to provide bus transportation to students. You lied about adequate COVID-19 testing in schools. You even lied about the number of COVID-19 cases in our schools. Now you want to break your agreement with the Chicago Teachers Union. In fact, you're even going against your own statement on February 25th saying masks will continue. So please quit pretending you care about student safety. It's clear you don't. And finally, my name is Catherine, and I'm a parent of 3 CPS students at 3 different schools in the north side of Chicago. As a family, we wholeheartedly believe in masking to protect each other, especially due to the low vaccination rates in some schools. One of my kids is severely immune compromised and depends on others to be protected. I am speaking to you based on the assumption that we live in a society of empathy where we can all think about others and the well-being of our community and those who live in it, particularly those with weakened immune systems or predisposed to severe illness. I am not asking for universal masking everywhere. I am asking for a sensible solution to keep all kids safe in school. Thank you to those parents. Thank you to all of you for being here.
Thank you so much, Lee. If there is anyone from the media, if you want to identify yourself, if you have a question, and then we can see which parent would like to respond.
Stefano Esposito with the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes.
I had a couple of questions, but I was then changed my tack a little bit. Given the fact that this is a very divisive issue, and that there are quite a number of parents who believe just like the majority of people speaking here, but there are also a number of parents who are in favor of removing masks. I know that because I speak to them, frequently. What happened I'd like to know what happened to Christine, your sub-teacher. Given the fact I said this is a very divisive issue, why was she cut off? Because she was still speaking, and Dr. Herman, has already spoken. So I kind of want to know what happened there. That wasn't my original question, but it is now because I feel she was cut off in midstream.
Sure. No, she had a chance to respond with her perspective. One thing I would like to say is we know that there's 10% or so of parents who are strongly against masks. And we know that there's about 10% or so of us who are strongly for masks. 80%, the majority of Chicago Public Schools parents will just follow what the district and their schools tell them to do. And we understand that we have strong opinions on both sides. So in that case, we know when masks are mandated, more people will wear them. Just as when vaccines are mandated, we know that more people will be vaccinated. So one of the things that we are also pushing for is we would really like Chicago Public Schools to announce that they will have a COVID vaccine requirement for fall 2022. Because again, there'll be some parents who don't want to vaccinate, who are, not really feeling great about that. But when it's a requirement to go to school, then more people will do it. So that's why we're encouraging for the mask requirement to remain, because then the more students, the more staff will do that. And finally, we also, as we've said before, we strongly stand behind the CTU safety agreement that they fought so hard for in January. It's been barely not even 2 months. And so we had been expecting that to be for the rest of the school year because that was the agreement. So why would CPS change that now without full parent input, not just the mask optional parent input, as you say? So that's kind of the reasons. It's not that there aren't people that disagree with us. There are people that disagree with us, but there's other factors at play. And I'll go ahead and have Jesu have a comment as well. And then if you have any other questions.
Yeah, I can answer that. So first of all, Stefano, get your facts straight, because this Christine interrupted Howard and he had the floor. So it wasn't a question of shutting her down. She had her turn and she could have spoken again. And I don't know if she got kicked out or not. We're a very democratic group. I don't care if people are for or against the mask. They're welcome to speak here. So that's what happened. Nobody cut her off. I don't think anybody kicked her out. But she was the one that was interrupting Dr. Howard Ehrman, who, by the way, has decades of experience as a medical doctor.
Thank you, Jesu. Are there any other questions?
Well, I do have a follow-up. Yeah.
Okay.
If there are, I certainly, if there are other media on the line, I would certainly defer to them. But if there aren't, then I have one more follow-up question.
Seems like you have the floor.
Okay. So in response to what you folks are saying, it seems like CPS has responded saying, as you know, that 141 students and 53 students tested positive last week out of a total of a population of about 272,000 kids and 30,000 staff. Do you not trust that number? Do you think it's an undercount, or is that not important at this point, the numbers they're giving?
I'm going to go ahead and call on Chinella first, and then Calavita. Go ahead.
No, we don't trust that information. We know that there are schools that are not giving the proper information. I have children that go to 3 different schools. There have been multiple times this year where we have found out, not from the school, that there were students that had COVID. It was not reported. We check the website all the time. It's supposed to be updated, I think, every Friday. If we know what's going on in our school. I know that there should be cases and they're not reporting cases. So no, we don't trust it. That's what we've been saying this entire time. We don't trust CPS. We don't trust Lori. Those numbers are not accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Calavita, you had your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, all of us know, and there is some of us, we know a few parents who have backgrounds in data analysis. They've walked through the data and have found that CPS has been misrepresenting the numbers. And as a SPED parent, and I've battled with CPS for years, what I have found, especially getting my children the things that they need, that CPS has taken documents that I've had, they have reinterpreted the data that's in it and submitted it to outside sources. So no, we don't trust the data because we know that they don't tell the truth. They use different things that they have and change the data and the information so that it fits their narrative.
Thank you. And then Michelle, I saw your hand up, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I've been very active at my school, and oftentimes I have to alert the network admin and my principal that data is not accurate on the website. So it is hard sometimes as a parent to kind of know. Oftentimes I will ask for raw numbers because I'll get percentages, but not know the sample size that they have pulled. So I think parents here are just wanting to make sure that their kid is safe because we've seen variants rise and fall. And so we just don't want to afford our kid getting sick. And as Ms. Mitchell had pointed out, have to isolate, have to take time off work, have to go through the trauma of, am I going to get sick? Those are just not worth it for the privilege of removing a mask.
Thank you. And then Charles, I see your hand up. I'm not sure, are you media or do you have a question?
I'm with the, I'm affiliated with, I've been enforcing labor laws for the AFL-CIO for a number of decades. And I simply wanted to alert the community here that since 1970, a school is a workplace. And since 1970, in the passage of OSHA, every employee is entitled to a safe and healthy workplace. That is the laws of the United States, and they're not just a good idea. Now, I'm not affiliated with the CTU. However, I want to keep in mind that whatever the union decides in this regard, all parties are subject to compliance with these mandates. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We appreciate that. And with that, we are at time. So thank you to all the parents who took the time to speak out today. Thank you to the media for your questions. And, we're happy to follow up individually with any other questions you may have. But we appreciate you all. And we hope that Chicago Public Schools will at least realize that there are parents that feel this way and that they should also try to earn our trust back, because right now we have zero trust, unfortunately. Thank you all.